the reality is when you start to treat your career like a business and you become the CEO of you incorporated, everything starts to change.
Hello and welcome to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. I'm Brittany Cates, your host on this incredible journey of career transformation. Get ready for inspiring stories, valuable insights, and a roadmap to shift your mindset towards a more fulfilling professional life. In each episode, we explore the remarkable journeys of individuals who made a career change, offering motivation, strategies, and the confidence to pursue your dreams. Whether you're feeling stuck, contemplating a change, or just seeking a dose of inspiration, this podcast is your weekly companion. Tune in every Thursday as we uncover the secrets to shifting your day job. Thank you for being here on another episode of the Shift Your Day Job podcast. Before I jump into introducing my guest, I would like to share with you my brand new free offer. It's a brief video training about how to successfully shift into your dream career now and avoid the one big mistake that I see women making when it comes to searching for jobs online. In this training, I will address this big mistake and teach you how to reframe your job search strategy in order to build your confidence and take more effective actions. The reason why this is so important is because by understanding this one common mistake that people make, it will empower you to not only avoid it, but take control of your career transition. So if you're interested in this training, please send me a DM on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, and I would be happy to share the link with you and help you along on your career shift journey. In today's episode, I'm thrilled to chat with Tammy Alvarez. She's the CEO of Career Winners Circle and has such an inspiring and unconventional career story. She didn't follow the typical path. Instead of heading straight to college, she took her own route, which eventually led her to becoming managing director on Wall Street. As we chat, Tammy opens up about what it's like for so many people who feel disconnected or stuck in their careers and shares her perspective on finding that unique it factor that can really transform your work life. We dive into how to make bold career moves, why treating your career like a business can be a game changer, and the role of a solid support network to help you thrive. Tammy also shares some great tips on identifying your strengths, advocating for yourself, and finding a workplace that truly supports you. Plus, she gives us a sneak peek into her book, Escaping the Career Trap, which is packed with tools to turn career dissatisfaction into fuel for success. If you're ready for some straight talk on career growth and making your work life a place of real purpose, this is an episode you don't want to miss. So, without further ado, please welcome Tammy Alvarez to the podcast. Hi, Tammy. Welcome to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. How are you doing today?
I am great, Brittany. I am so pleased to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. I see that you are are you a career coach or what would you call your label?
What box do we fit in? And the Career Winner Circle, I'm the CEO of the Career Winner Circles. We've got many coaches that are on our team. And one of the biggest areas that we support, and it's actually where the business started about 7 years ago, was in that career coaching space. We had found that so many people felt disenfranchised in their roles. And you have this feeling of being stuck and you're doing all the things you're supposed to do and all the right things. And all of a sudden, okay, this sucks and it's not supposed to. So what am I doing wrong? And what do I need to do to change that for ourselves? So that is really the core DNA of the organization. But we also support businesses and leadership development and all kinds of other fun things as well.
Very cool. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, this is a lot of what I focus on as well with my audience. And
Our
so I'm
soul sisters in service. So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to glean your wisdom on this podcast. If you don't mind, could we start off with your career journey, like where you started and how you've gotten to this place and what you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. And so my career took a bit of an untraditional path in that I didn't go to college and I didn't get my degree until I was 40. Yet I was a managing director on Wall Street at 35. And so being able to do that was very uncommon. And the reason I didn't go to college is my parents had split up. when I was about 15. Long story short, my mom, my sister, and I became homeless. And so seeing my mother struggle the way she did, she got pregnant with me in high school. And so she was not equipped for all of the things that life had thrown at her. And I watched her struggle. And I knew that for me, it was just such a wake up call to, at a young age, as at that teenager years, but I didn't want that history to repeat itself. And so by the time I graduated high school, obviously we had no money. I had no ambition and my grades were terrible. But I was like, okay, we're going to do this right now. And I figured I would go to work for a year or two, figure myself out, and then go back to college or go to college to begin with. And it just didn't work out that way. I kept getting promoted like every year or two. I started in the temporary staffing business. I worked for Manpower and I worked on their light industrial desk. So we placed warehouse workers and those types of people. That was my side of the business. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was 18 years old, but I was willing to try anything. And I was in an incredible fortunate situation in that the owner of the franchise and the group of offices that I was part of saw way more in me than I ever did. And he became the best mentor I think I've ever had in my career because he kept putting me in situations that I didn't know what I was doing, opening new divisions, trying new things, all this stuff, because I had this fearlessness about me. And the fearlessness was driven by fear, in that I did not want history to repeat itself. I did not want to be dependent on anyone. I needed to be self sufficient. And so I felt like was playing like I had nothing to lose because I didn't, but in my mind. And so I learned very early in my career how to take risks and how to recover from failures because I think my list of failures is way longer than my list of successes. And so that unusual beginning, ultimately, I ended up working in Wall Street. And so the last 20 years of my corporate career, I was a leader in Wall Street. I ended my career when I decided to do this. I was managing about 2,000 people in 35 countries and traveling the world, solving some of the biggest problems. And I loved what I was doing until I didn't. And I think a lot of us have those moments where you can feel the shift. You want to ignore it for a bit and pretend that it's not there, but you feel that shift. And I remember this moment. It's in the book, which we'll talk about later, but I was in the boardroom and we had just had our quarterly earnings call. The company I was with at the time missed earnings again. And our boss came in and just started just screaming like a lunatic. And this happened every quarter. So it wasn't anything new. It was actually fun. And what we would do is it would turn out to be a game of hot potato, where it's like, oh, it wasn't my division. It was your division is why the earnings were terrible. And we would just continue to do this. And this happened all the time. And this time particularly, I don't know why, but I felt like I was having that experience in the movies where you have that out of body experience and you're hovering over the table and you're watching everything, but you're not really connected. And so as this was going on, I felt like I was watching it from that point of view. And I don't know what happened, but I developed this disease that I did not know was terminal. And the disease was called I don't give a shit-itis. So all of a sudden I'm like, I could care less about any of this. And so about 6 months after that moment, I ended up cashing out of Wall Street, moving to a tropical island off the coast of Belize in Central America and starting this business. And it was probably one of the most terrifying things I've ever done in my life. And we started really with people saying, how did you do that? Because I had made it. Big office, fancy job, giant paycheck, all these things that everybody drives and strives for. And I just walked away. And so that really built a lot of curiosity within people within my community and whatnot. And that's really how the Career Winner Circle got started.
Wow. That's a really incredible story. Like, what a transformation, right? From where you started growing up, right? To making it a point to be successful, getting so successful that then you finally walked away from. Like, it's just such a,
Plot twists and turns and plot twists.
yeah, can be a movie.
It would be an idea. You're into that whole corporate geeky stuff.
Yeah. So I think it's really inspiring to think that
just as an outsider to look at that story and maybe relate to it in certain ways, right? Like, where am I now? And if she could do that and get out of homelessness and be I imagine if you work on Wall Street, you're making quite a bit of money.
An amount of money, like stupid,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. And
Uh,
then fulfilling a dream that maybe you didn't realize you had until
Never
you
want
had
to
it.
be an entrepreneur. And I
Yeah.
because during my career, it had come up a couple times. I'm like, oh no, I'd hate that. I love my corporate job and I'm not passionate enough about anything to be an entrepreneur. When all of these things came through, and it's not for everyone. This is really hard
Yeah.
to build a thriving company. But almost all the time, I was the only woman at the leadership team. Right. I was for a long time, not anymore, but I was the youngest woman on the leadership team or the youngest person. And so going through all of the things that women today are going through, it's just insane. And being able to navigate that in a way that's authentic. I mean, some of the stories of just the misogynistic insanity, manslating is not even half of it, right? In terms of what's like the cigars, the strip clubs, all these things. I'm like, what am I doing here? So there's just some weird stuff that goes on. And I think women struggle with trying to find their place. And then we all know when you're not in a great place with your career, your mind, your inner voice doesn't help you. That is not the time when your inner voice is saying, you're smart and you could get this done and you've got this when it says. And so how do you get past that? And that's a lot of what we work with, right? Is that mindset. Because if you don't get back into those rock star moments, if you feel stuck and you feel marginalized, you're not sure what to do, you're not at your best. You're not going to show up bigger.
Yeah.
And so then that starts that hamster wheel that we get stuck. And so that's where our passion lies, is helping get off of that track and then reinvent a career that actually serves you.
Yeah, absolutely. What really stands out to me is the not giving a shit-itis, and I know that I can relate to that, and I was a teacher for 10 years, and there were many moments where I felt that I could care less. This is wasting my time feeling. And how do people get to that point where it's enough is enough, where they are ready to maybe how did you said it was the same meeting over and over again, but suddenly today was different. So what is it that's going to pull somebody into the action phase,
Right.
right?
And that's a great point, Brittany, is that action. So many people sit in this apathetic haze. And so we work with companies to help them figure out how to make an environment where people don't want to do that. Because here's my take on this. And I was joking around. I was in the lobby of a very big building in Chicago, getting ready to facilitate a 3-day strategy session in the beginning of this year. And I was early, so I grabbed a cup of coffee and just sat in the lobby. Lots of different companies in this giant building. And I'm in Mexico City. So I work in my office. I roll in to do speaking engagements, come back. So I'm not really part of the daily grind anymore. And I remember looking around and I felt like the zombie apocalypse had invaded Chicago. No one was like, everyone was shuffling. No one was smiling. Their eyes were down. I was like, what happened? And so people don't want to feel like zombies. And companies don't want zombies to work for them. Yet the divide between engagement and people actually caring about what they do is continuing to grow. And so where's the problem here? So we solved this for companies in our B2B practice, but to talk to your audience specifically, there's a couple things that I want people to listen who are listening to take away. And the first thing is you want to make sure that there's something in your role that you are passionate about. Now, I'm not a big fan of go find your passion because that's wonky and esoteric and probably impractical. And I've had several different jobs throughout my career. I made 5 industry pivots, and then I worked in 11 different types of roles from sales to audit and everything in between. So I was always of the mindset if you don't like it, change it. And I have the attention span and patience of a 5-year-old. So that happened a lot. I was like, okay, I'm not happy here anymore. But here's the process I would use that helped me determine whether it was time to make a move or not. Because if you sit in that apathetic haze too long, someone will make that decision for you. Then you're on your back foot. And you never want that to happen. And so I would always find something to be excited about. And so the first thing I would look for is the work. Am I excited about the work we're doing, the impact we're making? And does that get me out of bed in the morning and say, yes, let's go fight another day? And sometimes the work we were doing was not at all sexy or interesting. So I'm like, okay, what's next? And so for me, the next thing was my people, my team. Am I excited about the people that I'm working with? Do they energize me? Am I learning? Am I growing? Am I helping them learn and grow? And sometimes the people I worked with were jerky. And so when the work wasn't interesting and the people were jerks, there was only one more thing for me to look for. And that was, where's my opportunity for growth? Am I doing something that's really going to help me build my edge for the next thing? And if that was there, great. 'Cause there was this one situation where I wasn't excited about the work and the people were nice enough. They just weren't the type of people I go out for a martini with after work. But the work, the growth I had was amazing. Right. It was a major issue that we were transforming. It was global. It was complicated. We actually got 2 patents from our thought leadership from that. So I didn't love the work or the people, but I did love the growth. So if you go through those 3 things, the work, the people, your personal growth, and if all of those come up empty, it is time to make a move. And you have to leave the companies. If you're working with a big enough company, you can probably stay internally. But sometimes you need a bigger shift than that. And there's a mindset shift that we need to make. And you should make this whether you're in a great spot on the fence or your back is against the wall. And that's moving from a mindset of I'm at the whim of the companies I'm working for, but I'm at, hey, let's face it, we're all day to day. We have this illusion of having that security, and we all know that's true. But the reality is, when you start to treat your career like a business and you become the CEO of you incorporated, everything starts to change. And so I'll give you a couple examples of the crap that goes on that everybody sees that when you start to change into this mindset, you'll see that it's like, oh, hang on a second. Now I'm looking at this totally different. And so you've been coaching and in the space. So how many times do you hear that someone has the honor doing more work and taking on more responsibility without a title or compensation change?
Yeah.
That crap happens all the time.
All the time.
Now, if you and we're like, "Oh, thankful." We're not gonna say no because we're afraid we'll get fired if we're gonna say no. But the reality is the reason they're asking you to do is because you're probably the only one who knows how to do this, so you are dealing from a position of strength. Now, if you are now, as a business owner, if you were to tell me, and we're working together, "Hey, I need you to do a little bit more work and take on more responsibility." I'm like, "Awesome. Happy to help." But that's scope change, and so we're gonna have to renegotiate the contract. And we do. And you'd be surprised that if you advocate for yourself within an organization, they will. But if you just say, okay, and do it, then they're not going to offer you anything more. It's only what you're able to negotiate. The other thing that drives me crazy that I used to see all the time and still do is this idea that if you do all this work, I'm going to make it up to you at bonus time. And so, okay, let's hope you don't get amnesia or fired by then. And some people do all this work and on a promise to be made later, and then a rework happens or a million other things happen. And now you've done all this work and you've got nothing. I have this one client, very senior executive, who's been promised this silver lining of this massive executive title that comes with $1 million paycheck. And she has been working as if she's in that role for 5 years. And this, I'm talking like 80 hours a week, crazy type stuff. And this very smart, educated woman advocating for herself regularly. So there's no shame in falling for this. But then, of course, reorg happens. She knows she got approved for this because she's got inside intel, but she didn't get it because she has a new boss and he wants her to start all over again. This crap happens all the time.
Yeah.
And it's up to us. So as a business owner, if we were working together and you were like, yep, let's do this work, I'm going to pay you in 8 months. I'd be like, yeah, no, actually, no. I need to be paid now for the work that we do. And so when you take that CEO mindset and you start to treat your career like a business and you start to make decisions as if you are the business, so you need sales and products that are innovative and all these other things, then you're adding more value to the company and you're able to advocate for yourself much more effectively. And so that's where the fun comes in because everybody already knows how to run a business because you're doing it every day for the company you work for. So you take those same skills and experiences and you apply it to you. And when you start to do that, hang on a second, I've been playing too small. I've been not really showing up or advocating for myself or my team the way I should be. And then you start to show up a little bit different. And I think one of the things that people struggle with is they feel disenfranchised by the system. All these things we talk about, okay, I didn't get promoted. I'm not getting this. They're not putting any time or money into my development. So the system has let me down. When the reality is the system is just there. So the system puts the roads in and they put the guardrails up so you don't run off the cliff. And they set the speed limit so you have an idea of how fast to go. But you're the one driving the car. You decide what road you're taking, how fast you're really going to drive, and more importantly, what music you're going to put on the radio. And so when you start to realize that you do have more control that you think in every economy, I don't care how many people are getting laid off. The times I've made my biggest moves are during economic crisis and downfall, because when everyone else is hiding under their desks, hoping not to get fired, that's your moment to surge. And so all these things that we show our clients how to do and how to start to advocate for themselves, because it's not about the system. It's about how you're driving the car. And businesses will get the best possible value for the most reasonable price. And that's how they buy pencils. That's how they buy software. That's how they buy people.
Yeah.
And as a business owner of You Inc., you want to provide the best possible service for the highest possible price.
Yeah.
And so somewhere in there is where you find where you can agree. And so we take that personal stuff out. We start to look at this from a commercial arrangement, because that's all this is. And then all of a sudden you're not stressed anymore. You're like, hang on a second, because if this isn't good, there's someplace else that will be. And so those are all the fun things that we talk about in terms of trying to unpack, like when it's time to move, is that mindset, right? What can you be excited about? And then really starting to advocate for yourself and realize it's a commercial arrangement.
Yeah. I love that. I love that analogy of you are your own business and it removes that personal aspect, right? And I think the biggest takeaway that I have from this is nobody out there is going to save you but yourself, right? So you have to be the one setting the boundaries, communicating, showing your value, and not not allowing the outside to control how you are showing up.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you can't control external factors,
Yeah.
right? Companies get bought and sold, economies grow and shrink, organizations go from centralized to decentralized models. Like all of these things are swirling all the time. But you can be smart about it and find where your opportunities, because during chaos, there's always opportunity. And so looking and saying, okay, here, I think it starts with really understanding what we call your it factor is. And when you think about your it factor, and again, think about it from a business perspective, it's your unique experiences, perspective, and skills that make you not only different, but better than your competition.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people bristle when they hear the term better, because we don't want to be better than anyone else, right? That's rude. But from a business perspective, if you were to ask me, is the Career Winner Circle the best coaching company out there for career changers? Absolutely, we are. And so that doesn't mean our competition's terrible. There's a million good coaches out there, a million bad ones too, but you know what I'm saying. And so when you really understand what that edge is that you're bringing, that really gives you that opportunity. Then you try and figure out, where is this in high demand and in short supply? So I'll give you a great example. One of my clients, Phil, he was a career financial services guy, 30 years. And so he got disenfranchised with the industry eventually. Slow, not stupid, but eventually realized, okay, it's time to get out. And in the financial services industry, it is very common for us to have a reduction in force of between 10 and 20% of people every year. It is just what we do. And you still have to be innovative. You still have to inspire your people. You still have to serve your customers. And so the muscle of doing more with less, he didn't even know that was a skill, because it's just what he knew.
Yeah.
And then we looked at, as we were working together, there was an organization that is a very well-known company right now, but it was a hyper-growth startup and it was an industry disruptor. Now, this particular business was started by people who were in their 20s, 30s, just getting started. And as they were growing their business, they had tons of venture capital money. They had unlimited financial resources. So anytime they had a problem, there was just more money, more tools, everything was available. So they could always get more. Then they went public and their competition got their act together and they were getting their clock clean from a profitability perspective. And now their shareholders and their board are having a fit.
Yeah.
Now, these incredibly smart, most of them are men, but these incredibly smart leaders have no idea how to do more with less. They've never had to, ever, because they grew up in this business and land of milk and honey. So now in comes Phil with this in his DNA. And not only is he adding value for his group being able to do that, but he's also taking on a service mindset and showing the other leaders how to do this too. And now he's a rock star, right? Making more money than he made in financial services, which was a lot. But more importantly, he's no longer being sidelined. He is at the cool kids table every day because everyone wants to learn from Phil and he's willing to share that. So when you find that it factor for you and you will look for environments where those are really in high demand, but in really short supply, and you take that service mindset to where you don't just keep your goodies to yourself, but you share with the rest of the organization to help them grow too, it is just the magic triumvirate for that thriving career. And we all have one. So you just have to find it.
Yeah. I think as you talk, I think about me personally and my experience, where I am right now in my career and where you're talking about what is your edge or whatnot. I can feel the like feeling of, oh, I don't know if I have one. Like that self-doubt, right? And my question to that is like, how do we start like embodying like this mindset of, no, I do have an it factor. I do have value to offer because I also think about, I do have friends that have been laid off recently. They've been looking for a job for a really long time and still nothing. And you feel really downtrodden and, oh, woe is me. And it's this idea again of the system is against me and the economy and it's so easy to get wrapped up into that negativity, right? So how do we get ourselves back to, wait a second, this is what all I have to offer, and I'm going to take advantage and find that place that my skills are in demand for.
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, in terms of job hunting, right? Don't even get me down that little rabbit hole. The first, two chapters of the book are about how dysfunctional the system is that we're playing in. But as soon as you know the dysfunction, then you can start to play different. So for those of you who are job hunting, if you are relying on job boards to be that answer and you think sending out resume after resume on LinkedIn or Indeed or Glassdoor or any of that, you are in for a very long road to nowhere, right? If you've got more than 10 years experience, you've got less than a 10% chance of finding a job on a job board. Full stop, right? It's a place to research. It's not a place to find roles. Now, blind squirrels find a nut, right? Every now and then. But as a general rule of thumb, it's a terrible strategy. Stop setting yourself up for failure in terms of doing that. So just quick public service announcement on that. But one of the tools that we use within our coaching practice that really helps people get back in, get their mojo back, because that's what you're lost in. And if you don't believe it, how are you going to get anyone else to believe it? So you've got to get back into that rock star status. And one of the things you can do is we have this thing that we call a brag sheet. And then what we ask you to do is to really define the 5 most epic moments you've ever had in your career. Like those things that will sit down with a glass of wine or a beer. Oh my God, you're not going to believe what happened. And you tell the story. And it's full of intrigue and drama and all that kind of fun stuff. And it's the things where you really were at your best. Because when you bring up out of all the things you've done, when you narrow it down to the top 5, here's what happens. 1, you remember you don't suck. And once upon a time, you were awesome and you still are awesome, right?
Sure.
I think that's one thing that's important. 2, you resurrect these really great stories you can tell. Because whether you are just running your business like a CEO or whether you're job hunting, everybody loves stories. Brittany, most of the time today, I'm telling you stories about how things work. And then the third thing it does, which is really interesting, is when you look at these 5 stories, you are going to find consistent themes throughout all 5. And so the threads that run through all five are the environments you thrive in.
Mm,
And whether it's the people, the work, a combination of both, but you are going to find commonalities in all five. And those are the environments you should look for.
mm,
We spend so much time trying to figure out, do I fit this role? Do I fit this company? And that's the exact wrong thing to do. So, what you need to do is be really selfish in terms of here are the environments that I thrive in. And so it has to fit that.
yeah.
And if it doesn't, then the answer is no.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, unless you're unemployed and one paycheck away from losing your home, different story. But if you're sitting in an environment where you have the luxury of choice, but then you need to be able to be like, this is where I'm at my best, which means I'm going to do great work. I'm going to love what I do. I'm going to make a bigger impact and I'm going to make more money. And it takes just as much time to find a crappy job as it does to find a good one. You may as well find one that works for you. Like with CWC, we don't work with everyone because we're not good for everyone.
Yeah.
And we don't want to take their money and not give them the value that they are expecting. So, as the CEO of You Inc., you don't want to take on a crappy client. It's miserable for everyone. And when you start to
Mhm.
look at your employer as your clients and your coworkers and your frenemies as your customers, then all of a sudden you have a different perspective. But now it's time to be selective. And so when you're in that rut of everything is against me, go back into those rock star moments, but also use those moments to inform you on where you are going to be most successful because everyone will win when you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes me think of a lot of times we judge ourselves for not fitting in to certain places or for not being good at something, right? Instead of flipping it and being like, okay, now I know, right? Now I know that's not my strength. And that's okay. If I'm allowed to be good at some things, not good at others. I'm allowed to work well in this situation and not in that situation. Like we think we have to be perfect or fit into somebody else's box all the time. And so taking that step back and just reflecting on, okay, no, this is my specialty and I'm allowed to be who I am and embrace it and accept it. And then using that as your superpower, right?
Always.
Instead of discounting yourself.
Well, and because we always focus on things we're not good at,
Yeah.
don't we? And so when we think about our annual goal set, we get like a ton of goals that are shoved down from the company. And then we have one or two token goals that we get to do for ourselves, right? For personal development. And we never pick things we're good at. We always pick the things that we're not good at.
Yeah.
And,
It's fun.
and I think here is where things will start to change. And again, it's that CEO mindset, right? As Career Winner Circle, we don't look for customers who have needs that we're not good at.
Yeah.
Right? We just don't because we know we're not going to be effective. And so when you take that same idea and you play to your strengths, you are going to grow so much faster. So here's a strategy that I recommend that our listeners really lean in on. So you want to really identify like your top 2 or 3 strengths that you have. And here's how you do it. You look for the things that energize you.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the things you've had the most experience in, because most of the time we don't get to do enough of what energizes us. So we get good at things that don't necessarily light our fire, right? So you want to find the things that you can do for 12 hours a day and end the day more energized than when you started. For me, it's coaching, it's public speaking, it's doing this kind of stuff, it's working with our coaches. I love that stuff. And I could do it all day, every day. Like I'm a guest on 5 podcasts today. Like we're binge podcasting as we're recording. And I'm just getting more energetic every time I get out there because I love it. Now I can drive strategy and our social media and work with all these other things. But after about an hour or two, I'm spinning in my chair throwing pencils at the ceiling because I'm just bored. So find things that energize you because that is where your strengths lie. And then double down on strengthening those. Because newsflash, if you are not good at something by now, you never will be. So please stop. That's work. And you have to mitigate for that, right? Especially if you're a leader, you really want to make sure. So what I would do, there was a thing that I kept very secret for a long time until I realized I wasn't fooling anyone. And the reality is I suck at math. I do. I do not think that letters and numbers should be together. I just don't think it's how it's not good in financial services, right? So I could run a P&L and do big budgets and all that kind of fun stuff. But when it comes to metrics and calculations, and I was surrounded by quants and Six Sigma people, my propeller just didn't spin fast enough.
Yeah.
And what I found is that when I was in these meetings and they started doing all the geek speak, I'd call back because I was afraid I'd ask a dumb question because chances are good I would have. But then the problem was I didn't lead the way I needed to. I didn't test and challenge and make sure that we were really heading in the right direction because I was trying to hide my secret that I sucked at math. Everyone knew it. I didn't know, but they did. And so finally, what I did is I realized, okay, this is never, ever going to be something I'm good at. And I don't want to be because I freaking hate it. And so what I did is I got a bunch of people on my team that were quants and that were stats people and that really understood the data. And before these big meetings, I'm like, all right, kids, let's bring the crayons out and explain to me what's going on. So I could ask the questions in a safe environment and really understand the concepts of what was being discussed and ask the right business questions, And so stop trying to get, because if you think about it, if you spend 100 hours in self-development, if you put that 100 hours towards your strengths, just think about how much further you would be versus taking 100 hours and putting it towards things you're not good at to maybe become adequate.
Yeah.
It's just, you're making yourself crazy for no reason, right? Because no one is perfect or good. No one's perfect at anything. No one is good at everything. And so find those areas. And then again, that feeds into your it factor, right? Those things that energize you instead of thinking, oh, I wish I was like that person. Oh, I wish I could do this, or I wish I would stop doing this, or whatever. Work with what you got and then find ways to put yourself in an environment where those things are needed.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it just makes me think of how that's when you become the rock star, right? When you start embodying the thing that
Yeah.
you're really good at and people notice and they're like, oh,
And then all of some of the things you're not good at, it's like, no one cares. Right? It's like,
yeah.
and it's absolutely right. But you want to make sure that thing is needed. Because if everybody else has that thing, then you're not that special. And then if no one needs it, then you're out of luck. So it's not only finding the thing, but it's finding the opportunity to let that thing grow and to add that impact that we're looking for. So I think that 1-2 punch for that is really the secret sauce for being able to do that.
Yeah. Which it just makes you think like psychology is so fascinating and how our brains work. But I think of celebrities, right? And like, how do certain celebrities become so like iconic, right? And it's because they've done it, right? Like they've figured out that niche and that area that they're needed in. And even if they aren't like the most attractive or the best actor or whatever it is, they still find that extreme success. And sometimes it's, wait, what? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your word niche is perfect. Because as a business owner, they're always telling you to niche in, right? Understand your audience, exactly who you're serving. Because when you speak to everyone, you speak to no one, right? And it confused buys. And so we're always told to, and every time you think you're niched in, you got to go deeper, right? And go deeper. And so again, I'm the CEO of Me Incorporated. I got to find my niche. Where is it? And then go serve those people and those companies.
Yeah. I also love how you mentioned like finding the people or surrounding yourself with people that can support you and help you in the areas you're not good at to help elevate and lift you up.
Yeah. It was the
Mhm.
secret to my success. I was never the smartest person in the room, ever. And so many people are afraid to hire. What I used to say is I always hired people smarter than me. And in hindsight, that really wasn't true. But I hired people that were smarter than me in other areas.
Yeah.
And so, like, when I surrounded myself with all my data geeks to help me do this, and then I'd make sure, because sometimes I could have been a little intimidating once in a while. So I've got people on my leadership team that just were really the warm and fuzzy people that would tell me I was being a jerk. And I've got other people who, like when I have these big strategy ideas, I'm like, yeah, so no, we're never going to be able to get that done because that's eating the elephant in one bite. And so I knew my strengths were seeing the vision, knowing where we had to go, building that strategy, getting people excited and inspired. But I knew I had so many weaknesses in so many other areas. And so when I had that team around me that would fill the holes, tell me my baby was ugly once in a while, and help protect the team from my enthusiasm, we got so much better. But they weren't smarter than me. They were smart in different areas. So like my data people couldn't inspire a team to take action. Right. And the people who really were into the pulse of the organization in terms of a culture perspective, they were not able to really see that strategy because they were so focused on individual impact. And so none of those are good, bad, better, worse. But with the unification of those strengths, then we could really serve as a powerful leadership team that had all of our bases covered. And so whether you're an individual contributor and you have peers that you can align with to help put the pieces together, or a leader to make sure that your team covers your the areas that you're not strong in. Because I guarantee you, if I hadn't used that strategy, for me, it was out of necessity. I wasn't smart and said, oh, this is a great way to go. That's the only way I could survive. But by doing that, if I didn't do that, we wouldn't be here today. There's no way.
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of people I think that feel insecure by bringing people into their circle that are they accelerate in areas that they feel that they should be accelerating in. Whereas these are not your competitors, these are your lifeline.
Yeah, they're your partners. Yeah. And you tell me, like, I think it's really important to find somebody that can help you tap into your greatness, right? Because, like I mentioned earlier, it's really easy for us to just be like, I haven't, done," or get into that feeling of not enoughness or comparisonitis or whatever. What are your tips on finding the right kind of mentor or someone that's going to help you really like uh, lift you and motivate you to make a change?
Yeah, and make that impact. So
Yeah.
I always found that the best mentors, coaches, trainers, advisors, whatever label we want to put on them, are people that were like you a little while ago and have gone through the same journey. But not only that, but have helped other people get there too. Right? It's one thing to be able to say, okay, I was able to do this, but then to be able to transfer that into actionable things that someone else can do becomes very difficult. And a good advocate, but a good partner is somebody who's going to help you get really clear on what it is you want. Most of the time, my clients are running the wrong race. They're shooting for this goal that they have had for God knows how long. And when they finally get there, they're like, is this all there is? And then they look around, they realize that the goalpost for success has moved and they've been running the wrong race. And I think with all of the changes that we've experienced throughout COVID and with all the downsizing, and it's just all of us are rethinking and redefining what success is. And so you want somebody who's going to help you get really clear on why you want what you want. Because if it's to make sure you can buy the Range Rover or have the big house next to the person or whatever, those are going to be the big paycheck. That stuff wears off fast. And then it becomes a point of stress, not a point of excitement. And so you want to make sure that your sense of where you're going and the race that you're running is the right one for the right reasons. And then once that person helps you do that and that coach or that mentor helps you do that, then to have that systematic approach of how to get and unpack the mess and to be able to get out of your own way and then start to do some of the things that we've been talking about during our conversation today. And that's a lot of what our coaches do is just make sure you're running the right race for the right reasons. Let's get rid of the gremlins. I always say, are there monsters or dust bunnies under your bed? But you got to look for them because they're there. And then be able to take that action in a very decisive way that gets you excited, right? Because anytime we're not fulfilled in our career, we're in a place where it's just, I just can't do this another minute. But I don't know how to undo this and do something different. So helping you get in the right mindset to make the best decisions for yourself and take the actions that you need are critical. I was just having a conversation with a prospective client yesterday, and he's in a bad way. His life is a country western song, no question. Right? Like the divorce and the job, his dog didn't die. So that's good because I think I'm going to throw him over the edge. And but he's a senior guy, has had major successes, but his confidence is shot.
Mhm.
And when I get my head back straight, when I get my head together, then we'll come back. And I'm like, you realize the confidence fairy is not going to come and sprinkle pixie dust. And confidence comes from taking action.
Yeah.
So I think the most important thing if you're looking for help is to find someone that you trust that will help you take action in a way that's authentic and safe for you to do so, in a way that you find fun and not like a drill sergeant, unless that's what you like. And so I think all of those things really help us decide who in our lives do we want to have help us on our journey, because no one wins alone.
Yep.
And we think we have to figure this all out by ourselves. And it's the worst idea ever, right? So get some help wherever you possibly can.
Yeah. Thank you. I love those tips. Yeah. I also love like something actions that get you excited.
If you don't
Yeah.
like it, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And so
Absolutely.
one of my clients she's a classic procrastinator, which the president of the procrastinators club. So I totally no judgment. She's okay. I'm going to do this and do this. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And oh no, what she was saying is, she's getting up at 5 a.m. every morning. That's her thing. And she's a night owl. I'm like, why are you doing that? And she's because I should. I'm like, do you hate it? She's like, I'm like, then don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're your business. You can work until 2 o'clock in the morning if you want to, because that's where your biorhythms are taking you. But we try and shove ourselves into what we think we're supposed to do. And the reality is, if you don't like it, I'm like, how long have you been trying to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to work out? She's like, 20 years. I'm like, newsflash here. Oh,
Yeah.
that light you up, because those are the only things that you'll do well and with passion and with consistency. And realize the other things that you don't do, you don't need to.
Yeah.
Fine up to this point. So play to your strengths, do the things that work for you, and stop feeling guilty about all the things that you wish you could be at some.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. So as we close out, can you tell people a little bit about your book and about your career winner circle, and if they want to connect with you in any way, how to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So the book is called Escaping the Career Trap: Transform Your Apathy into Ambition and Never Hate Mondays Again. And so if you get the Sunday scaries and that pit in your stomach on Sunday nights, and if you do not wake up charged up, loving every single Monday, you need to buy the book. And so you can go to Amazon and Audible to get soft copies and ebooks and stuff. But I do have a special offer for a signed hard copy. So just go to escapingthecareertrap.com. You get free bonuses, access to our online training portal, and all that kind of fun stuff. So make sure you check that out. But from accessing our coaches within Career Winner Circle, go visit careerwinnercircle.com. There are tons of free resources that are there for you. So feel free to just settle in with a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and binge read and watch for a bit. And then you can also schedule a complimentary conversation with one of our onboarding specialists. And it's not a sleazy sales call, because we can't help everyone, but we can help many. And so it's a judgment-free area where you get to come in and share where you're at. And then we can see if we've got what it takes to help you get where you want to go. So definitely get the book, lean into the free strategy conversation, because the information that you get within that hour is incredible. And then also, please reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn. So look for Tammy Alvarez at Career Winner Circle, because I love nothing more than seeing messages in my inbox saying, hey, I heard you on this podcast. And either I loved what you said or I hated what you said. But no, reach out and connect, because I've got a massive network. And I think, especially for women, we need to build our power base. So let me help you grow your network as well. So feel free to reach out.
Love it. Thank you so much, Tammy. It was a pleasure. And I learned so much for myself personally. And I'm excited to binge some of your content.
Excellent. Come on in. Thanks for the invite and giving me the opportunity to share our message, and hoping it really resonated with a lot of our listeners today.
Thank you so much for tuning in today, and a huge thank you to our guest for sharing such valuable insights. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback helps others discover the podcast, and it means the world to me as I continue to bring you content that supports your career change journey. If today's conversation resonated with you and you're feeling stuck in a career that doesn't fulfill you anymore, I'm here to help. My one-on-one career coaching program is designed specifically for women, who are ready to break free from the grind and discover a career that truly excites them. In our sessions, we'll uncover what's holding you back, identify your true passions, and create a clear, actionable plan to transition you into a career that aligns with your deepest values. You can get in touch with me directly at shiftyourdayjob@gmail.com, or you can connect with me on social media at shiftyourdayjob. I'd love to hear from you and support you on this journey. Until next time, I'm your host, Brittany Cates, and together, let's shift your day job.